Just get me headphones.
Okay, so there's the music. So this is another episode of the Malt Travail podcast. This week we've got up to episode 23, would you believe? We're recording this on Halloween. It's a very wet and dark Halloween. The clocks went back last night. Yeah, we've just been comparing trick-or-treaters. It went mad. It was my missus said, "Oh, it's dead quiet," and then we had knock after knock from about, I don't know, 5:30 onwards. So we've run out of biscuits now, so we had to shut everything down. So
I give them no stock cubes. That's what I used to give you Sheffield. Get them no stock cubes. They've got like gold foil on them. They look like butterscotch or toffee. You want to see reaction at kids' face when they wrap them and shove them in their mouths and walking down path.
Bruce is quickly getting this in because his daughter's out and there's going to be a gaggle of teenage girlies all dressed up as ghouls. And
we'll be able to hear yourself speak when they're in.
So we're going to crack on. So yeah, it's a little bit of a damp Sunday evening. I say at the end of October. I managed to catch up with Nick actually this weekend, so we had a couple of beers last night in the Malton Royal Oak. So
you got more than a couple.
It was very nice actually. I thought very well this morning. And actually, we got invited to the Langton Road cellar bar as well, Bruce. So we sampled a few.
So wait now, first invite there.
Yeah. So it's still been a while since we've been together as a threesome, but we are trying to get something organised for the near future. Nick and Bruce were out in the Rhubarb Triangle last weekend, so we'll catch up with that, and I think that's going to be the focus of our next podcast. I've had a very wet week in Welsh Wales, so we'll catch up a little bit about that, and then as always we've got a few updates, news, etc. And today's episode though is going to focus on Nick. Now, Nick, I've called it 24 hours. Was it one night and a day or so you went to London? And it was a short hop, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, because we normally have to go down for a musical, but no, it was my belated birthday treat, so we didn't have to do a musical, which meant we can spend the evening in pubs, which was far more to my liking, really.
And we did London back in, I think it's like episode 17, where we all picked our three favourite pubs in London, but I think Nick actually, I know we mentioned the Princess Louise, but I think the pubs that you chose tonight are all new to the podcast anyway. I think we might have mentioned a couple of them when we were talking about other areas you might want to go. So hopefully it'll be interesting. Mainly you were kind of more along the river, weren't you, this time?
Well, that was the whole point. I mean, when I go to London, I centre myself around Holborn now because you've got the Sam Smith's pubs there, but it's half an hour walk from King's Cross. And then 10 minutes, quarter of an hour into Covent Garden. I say normally when we're going down to London, it's because we're going to see a show or Jackie's wanting to see a show and I sort of tag along unless I can persuade her that I don't like it and I'll sit in the pub all night. But because it was my weekend or my day, as it were, I planned to travel down the river. I mean, we always normally go on the Clipper rather than paying for one of those cruise boats that's a bit rip-off when the blokes who are manning the boats turn around and say, "Oh, we don't get paid, governor, so we rely on tips." Well, of course you get paid. So, as I say, we always go on the Clipper for a sort of a free cruise. We've been down in Greenwich a few times, so I just thought, well, concentrate on the North Bank this time, because often when I'm on the Clipper, you see these wonderful old pubs by the side of the Thames there and think about all the history that's connected to them. So decided to do that, and also was always told that the Wetherspoons down at Canary Wharf was quite an interesting building as well. So that's where I planned my round route from. So starting from Holborn, or you could even, in fact, what we did was start right in the centre of London. And once again, we both got Oyster cards, which makes it easy just jumping on and off any form of public transport you want. I understand that you can basically use a credit card the similar way as well. I understand Barclaycard will do that. So once you've reached a maximum amount, basically you're travelling for free. I think there's a maximum amount that you can spend and then whatever form of transport. So that was the other thing as well, to experience some different forms of transport. So, yeah, if you want me to make a start, we actually started in Trafalgar Square.
Well, I will get a normal...
All right, then, go on there.
Well, that's interesting, and I think you've chosen quite a few pubs with character. I think probably would summarise them, wouldn't it? I think you picked some.
Well, those are
interesting-
pubs I like. I don't like those
Yeah,
ripped out shops that are
yeah.
craft emporiums.
And as you say, I know you also said you try and kind of combine that with a transport thing, because I think that's one of the benefits of London, isn't it? It's interesting listening to some of the metro mayors. I think Andy Burnham's saying that about the north. You know, we don't have that integration like London has, where, like you say, with an Oyster card, you can pretty much travel across the whole of the city, can't you? On train, tube, bus, and are there some boats you can use your Oyster card on? Or
You use them on the Clipper. The KL, what were they called, Bruce? The initial KLM something, weren't they?
And the Price Watch House now they're sponsored by Uber, but you can't use the
Uber. Yeah,
your Oyster or your contactless top up doesn't include the Clipper. You get a slight discount, which is not your daily rate. So be careful of that.
And you can't get that day Rover.
No, whoa, hang on. I always use my Oyster card on the Clipper.
You can use an Oyster card on the Clipper, but the Oyster journey is not including your daily cap. So your £8 a day won't include your Clipper journey.
No, that's right. It's about I think it's about about $7.50 one way from where we went Canary Wharf back up to Blackfriars.
Yeah.
Which sounds a lot, but it's a 15-20 minute cruise. You pay for that on one of the cruise boats.
And that is £8. That's the London limit, is it? Once above that, you start kind of
$7.90, I think. So $7.90
which is not dissimilar to the old day Rover pass that we used to buy in the good old days, wasn't it? When you could buy a London Transport daily pass.
Zone 1 and Zone 2. It's about £4.20, didn't it? And then it started going up a bit.
The Oysters are out now. Everyone just uses the contactless tap.
Yeah.
So I'll say we just put the brakes on Nick slightly. So we'll do our normal kind of highlights, where we've been, and certainly I know you pair are going to focus your trip to West Yorkshire, probably the next podcast that we do. As I mentioned, I've been in deepest Welsh Wales, so I've been mainly drinking Brains for the week. So we went to Aberdyfi, which is a little kind of coastal village in the mid Wales. Actually, three pubs that were okay. Actually, two that were okay. We ended up going to the Dovey, which is right in the centre, and I even sampled the Barry Island IPA. Would you believe? Which actually was quite nice. But I managed to get a few different beers in while I was there. Although I've got to say, probably the best beer I tasted that week was actually a Wye Valley. So they're based in Herefordshire, aren't they? And I've got to say that HPA, which was in the Britannia pub, was very, very nice. Very clear, very light. Pale ale, 4%. That was really nice as well. I did manage to track down some, I don't never sell this right, Foil Brewery. And we mentioned a couple of podcasts ago, actually, that they were the first ever brewery in the UK to start canning beer. And I managed to actually hunt down while I was in Wales a couple of pictures of one of those original cans. And for those of you on YouTube, it looks like a Brasso can, doesn't it? It's basically a Brasso bottle with a crown top, normal bottle on the top, bottle capper on the top of it. But they were apparently the first people in the country to start canning beer. And I think we mentioned Wrexham Lager again was one of the early ones as well. And it was all the rage in America, and it came across. And then again, we mentioned someone. I picked up that this Crew Braff, which is kind of a Welsh type of ale, and Crew Braff typically means lovely beer in Welsh. It's quite a red ale, so that's apparently one of the traditional kind of Welsh beers. If you go back over the centuries, was a craft braff. So I managed to get a bottle of that. Well, so it was very nice. And the breeds are okay. Actually, I know we mentioned they were talking by Mitchells and Butlers. Sorry, Mitchells and Butlers bought out their pubs, didn't they, during lockdown? But they seem to be doing okay at the moment. So fingers crossed. And a new discovery with me actually.
No, Marston's, not Mitchells and Butlers. Marston's. Sorry,
Marston's. That's right. And they took their pubs over, haven't they? I think they're still brewing in Cardiff. But the discovery for me was Brains Smooth Dark.
Looks
so
great.
I was reading a little bit about Brains' beers, and obviously they have the Reverend James is their kind of key ones, an essay, which doesn't actually stand for Skull Attack. Apparently it's something else, and that's just what Welsh rugby fans called it. They do a gold version of that as well. But I came across this Dark Smooth, and it's a dark mild, which again we've talked about before. It's only 3.5%, but as Bruce says, it poured fantastically. I've got to say, it was on keg, it wasn't on cask. And in fact, the pub ran out of Guinness one night, and they managed to get quite a lot of people started drinking this instead. So if you ever come across Brains Dark Smooth, I would recommend it. It was very, very nice. $3.90 a pint in mid Wales, which I guess wasn't too bad for a touristy place, but there we go. Now, Bruce, you had a trip to Leeds with the family, so I think you took up the pub, didn't you?
I did, yeah. We had a trip to Leeds and I managed to tick off a pub we wanted to go for ages. the Eagle Tavern is one of reputed one of the best Sam Smith's pubs in Leeds. And it's actually, although we took a very convoluted route of finding it, you basically just come up past the Merrion Centre, walk about 10 minutes. You come to a very small industrial estate. You can't miss it because the bagel and nash shops, all the bagels are made there. They've got huge bagel and nash signs. And then, coming to the end of that building, you've got this standalone pub that has no business being there. I mean, any other brewery, this wouldn't be there now, wouldn't it be long demolished? Because Sam Smith's has invested in it. It's got a hotel, the top 2 floors are a hotel, and inside it's absolutely fantastic. There's 5 rooms to it inside. 4 of them have a real fire. The only one without fire is the actual room with the bar. In dark woods, great, immaculately maintained. It's got a great little snug room, 2 large rooms with proper fireplaces, mantelpieces, and 1 room that actually has a pool table on a standalone basis. So, although there's a pool table, which I don't particularly like in pubs, this is the corner that's run by itself. And I say, just nobody else but him would maintain it. It was immaculate. The only thing was, it had no Hample beer in because, of course, he's trying to, bizarrely, he's trying to push cask beer. So in a lot of pubs where there's Old Brewery, he's removed the Sovereign, much to the chagrin of a lot of the people that do go in the pubs around here. But in here, because the area, they'd obviously said, look, Sovereign's very popular. So we've removed the hand pump, which is very bizarre because the pub itself is lovely. There were, I took Ben in for a pint. There were a few people up there, like myself, finding it, a group of real ale drinkers in the snug. But yeah, definitely worth a visit. And actually, it's only about 5 minutes walk from the arena. The other side of the arena, you don't normally see, there's quite a few tower blocks, and this is at the other side of those tower blocks. So if you walk around the tower blocks, you would have to walk about 5 or 6 minutes. But yeah, cracking
Right.
pub.
Definitely. I quite miss my Sovereign, so I probably would choose
Well,
that. So
will it get any trade from the Arena Brews? Because the only other place I know that they went complete electric was the King's Stave down in York, and that was simply because it's a quicker way to serve rather than hand pulled.
Well,
Everything's on electric.
Very much a locals pub, but of course, people who live in Leeds, there's of course you've got loads of pubs around the arena, and of course there's a Wetherspoons now smack bang next to the arena. What the landlord was saying, he says, people in Leeds, he says, it's just so busy, he said. So, for a lot of people in Leeds, they know about the Eagle. So before and afterwards, of course, it's 5 minute stroll. There's a little bit of very free off-street parking nearby there as well for people in the know. So they go there. So they'll get a little bit of trade, makes it nice and busy, but not mad. And it's alternative to Wetherspoons, because the spoons gets absolutely rammed. Yes, because there were pizza there. This was courtesy of a group on the report a months ago. Mr. Rate My Takeaway had been to the Yorkshire Deli in Wakefield and had this meter-long pizza, and the other Yorkshire Deli's in Leeds. So we found a voucher, so it expired on Tuesday, so I had to go to Leeds on Tuesday. So you got a meter-long pizza. You got to choose 4 different toppings, so everybody got their own quarter. That's my one at the end there, not the cheese. And for £34, we got the meter-long pizza, 4 pints, the San Miguel, 4 pints and 4 portions of fries. So it was a mad deal. The pizza would have fed 8 people. That was the thing. We brought tons of it home. It was insane. So yeah, if you're looking for a good buy, if you've got on the group on Pages for Leeds, look for the Yorkshire Deli or Wakefield. So for £34, that huge pizza for about 8 people, 4 pints. Obviously bought Evia San Pellegrino. And
so I think, for those listening on the podcast, you definitely have to try and catch it with the YouTube version, because Bruce has got a picture there of his 2 kids having this huge and humongous pizza. Another special food voucher for Bruce.
Looks like a floor mat, Bruce.
It's
a dog lying asleep on front of fire.
It was absolutely wonderful. The ingredients.
It looks very nice. Yeah. I was asked about Sam Smith. Do they still have those kind of what would they call gauge electric pumps? That did half a pint at a time. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
No, I think actually you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, said that. Certainly, the King's Stay down in York, that was simply for quick service.
Yeah.
Because I remember I went in there once, and the girl behind the bar only started, she's a bit naive, and she served me a pint, and because it's a measured pint, I said, look at the size of the head on that. I said, can you just top it up for me? So she clicked it again. Obviously, got another half a pint in it. Well, didn't get another half a pint in it. All spilled down into the drip tray.
I was talking to a couple of the locals in the bar, and obviously what we're doing up there, and said I would come to tick it off the list. We want to come for ages, and we're talking about the price of beer. And I said, we've been in Wakefield, and prices were great. we were talking about landlord and what that's not what it used to be and the price of that. And actually told me that in the pack horse in Leeds, they do a very good pint of landlord. Pack horse costs just up from the Whitelocks, and it's only £2.80 a pint. So £2.80 a pint of landlord in Leeds city centre is available apparently. And there's another pub near the station, I think the Moat Hill, near the station, which I've never heard of, not far from the Scarborough Arms. They also knock out landlord £2.80 a pint, they said, so definitely worth checking out those.
Yeah.
So talking of beers, before we move on to beer news, Nicholas, are you partaking this evening? Are you on a
No, because as you said, I had folks around last night. They drunk all my beer.
So
No, not tonight. I'm
is it worth asking yourself?
I'm
from home.
I'm drinking. Went to London and had something to drink. We went to Camden Town Brewery and they do this Arch series, which you can't buy in the shop. So we've got a few cans up. So this is the Italian Pilsner, which is a Camden take on an Italian take on a German Pilsner. It's actually really nice. So it's delicious. It's very fresh, very florally. It's lovely.
Well, I wanted actually Nick talking about drinking these beers. Nick bought me this a couple weeks ago. That's probably some for his birthday, some bread mixes, and I have been. We did one lot, so and he bought me one of these to go with it. I'm going to drink it rather than putting bread. So this is the Sam Smith's Organic Chocolate Stout, which I can tell you cost him £2.99 from Tremblay Banders in York. He's got the label on it a bit. So I've never had this before, so I'm looking forward to this organic chocolate stout, and that's not bad for a pint bottle. Is it £2.99? And it's a decent brew. So I think it feels quite right for what we on Halloween this evening. Just see what ABV it is. It's 5%, so I'll tick you over for the evening. So brew news this week. I think Bruce used a couple of these, and I sent a couple of well. Obviously, I think we've all talked a little bit about the budget, which was trumped, wasn't it? It was kind of I don't know really. One or two people have said in the papers that it was almost kind of trying to put the working man off. You're going to pay loads of taxes and national insurance, but don't worry because your beer's getting cheaper. But as always, there was a little bit of a hidden kind of hit, wasn't it? In that, whilst the good news was that they froze, if you like, beer duty and are going to cut it on a certain amount. They seem to have used 40 litres as the point where they're going to reduce the beer duty. And that, of course, means that many small breweries and many of the kind of beers we talk about actually won't benefit because it's only the big guys that sell beer in 40-litre kegs. So I think we'll have to see really what happens. I've read that this weekend there is an option that they might be reviewing that. And in fact, the photo that bloody Rishi and Boris did, they're both lifting 30-litre kegs and saying, beer's getting cheaper, which was a bit of a con because it doesn't really. So we'll have to see kind of how it goes really. But
at the end of the day, they reckon it's only going to say 3 pence in a pint anyway, and we'll never see that. I mean, what's 3 pence here, there? Because the brewers just turn around and say, oh, well, we haven't put the price up for 2 years anyway, so, hey, we'll carry on paying it, won't we?
Oh, well, so
it won't be going up, though, will it? That's the thing. It'll offset a price rise, won't it?
It will, but obviously gas prices, electric prices, staff prices are all going up anyway, so whether it will actually impact on the pint in the pub is another matter, isn't it? Obviously, the brewers will be paid slightly less tax because they're paying less duty. But I think
we get our butter from Lidl. We get their West Country Spellwell butter, and it's got up 30.
I'm just going to go and get me power lead, lads, because I've got a low battery.
Okay, so Nick's going to sort himself some power. And again, interestingly, quite a few people made this connection on Twitter, etc. So again, for those on the YouTube channel, we've got a clip there of Boris and Mr. Wetherspoon himself, and it was interesting, wasn't it? There was a lot of talk about the pre-release, quite a lot of the budget news, and the day before the budget, Wetherspoons announced we're cutting the cost of some pints in some pubs to under £1. I know, Bruce, that you're keeping an eye on where these are going to be. I don't think every pub is going to be offering this.
I was in Harrogate on Friday saying the packed Wetherspoons, Winter Gardens. If you're not, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of Wetherspoons, but probably arguably content of the finest Wetherspoons in the country. Winter Gardens, of course, was Victorian inner city greenhouses. If you look at the flowers, fantastic archways, marble, parquet floors, stunning ceiling. But the posters are up for this, though. It was a Green King IPA, it's going to be 99p. Right. It was a lager for 99p, and Bell's Whiskey is going to be 99p a shot. That's mad.
Again, I mean, this has got nothing really to do with duty, has it? Because, like we just said, you wouldn't see that money off it. But and actually, this is a tweet. This is Weston Greenman, who's one of the guys that follows us on the pod sometimes. and he said can't possibly see the connection between Wetherspoons and pre-announcing a 99p beer and then beer duty being floored the day after the budget. So anyway, that's again, we'll see how that settles down. Just thought I'd throw this one. I don't know if you saw this, Bruce. The Yorkshire
Oh, no, I
Post
didn't know.
had the Fox in Holgate as their pub of the week. I think it was in last Saturday's Yorkshire Post. So
Excellent.
I know we've had a bit of a occasional go at the guy who writes this column in the Yorkshire Post. It's a bit bland sometimes, but it's not a bad write-up actually. And again, obviously, Bruce is local, really. And again,
I was there last night, and I was there at 4 o'clock this afternoon.
and
over the last week, I've been to Leeds twice. I've been to Harrogate, I've been to Wakefield, Castleford, and I've been to Knaresborough drinking. The beer last night in the Fox, the Silver King, and this afternoon was absolutely stunning. Yeah. So the beer's in top.
Well, the Yorkshire Post give it 5 out of 5 for everything. 5 out of 5 for welcome, 5 out of 5 for drinks, and 5 out of 5 for
excellent.
So there we go. Actually, I did notice that in this month's camera, is it monthly now? No, is it bi-monthly? The beer magazine. Quite a few of Nick's pubs actually that he's chosen tonight are actually in. There's an article there about heritage pubs, and there's quite a few that are in there as well.
That's what I like. That's what I sort out.
This as well. It might not quite help us straight away, but again, I picked this up this week that Lumo are this new company which are now running on the East Coast main line.
It passes New York though without stopping.
Yeah, but you can travel from Newcastle upon Tyne to London for 16 quid.
You can,
but it's a bit weird. Yeah,
the cheap tickets are sold out for about 3 months though. But it's great deal though.
I mean, I think they reckon £30 out. This is the average cost. But it's weird. It's Newcastle, Morpeth, Stevenage, London, possibly Luton. They might add. I wonder whether at some point I don't know. I suppose LNER will take up the Wakefield, York, Leeds line, won't they?
It's because only every station, apart from the London ones, can only have one open access operator. So of course we've got Grand Central and Sunderland, Middlesbrough, Hartlepool. So they serve York, and so they say there's no space for Lumo because the way the revenues are worked out. But of course, Grand Central aren't really a low-cost operator, so people in York are fuming that they're paying a lot of money to an LNR, and this thing's coming through 6 times a day. So I think there's a lot of pressure coming to allow an open operator and an economy open operator as well. So yeah, fingers crossed it'll come though.
I've read that. Yeah, it's first travel group, isn't it, that own it?
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, but great for people from like Geordieland, for 16 quid, you can get your finger out. It's great price, isn't it? So brilliant. But like I say,
let's suppose all the pissheads who normally get on at Newcastle come down to York. They get on the wrong train and they end up in Stevenage.
And then again, that's all we mentioned Wetherspoons. We might still throw in Brewdog as well. And the news this week was it doesn't get any better for them, does it, Brewdog? It now came out this week that if you remember some time ago, I think we mentioned it on the podcast, they were putting out these solid gold cans in packs, and the idea was that if you bought a pack of Brewdog from them, I think it was Punk IPA, that they'd put out 10 solid gold cans, and this can was worth £15,000 and Anyway, I don't know how it got out, but now apparently they weren't actually solid gold; they were just gold plated, and they weren't worth £15,000. They were only worth about £1,000, something like that. So I know that I think what's his name, the guy James, what is it? He's now saying that he's going to pay all those 10 people the full price out of his own wages. It'll take him for 2 years to do that as well. But I just like this one because it was a bit. There was a couple of points. Some of the press picked it up, and there was a good one here in the Telegraph where she was talking about Brewdog being one of the new craft bars, and she said to those of us from Yorkshire, craft beer is where you take the black sheep or Timmy Taylors that we've been drinking for ages, make it a little bit fizzier, a bit hoppier, put it in a small can, and charge double the price, which I thought was quite apt, wasn't it? Something with Nick and sometimes Bruce.
Quite right.
So yeah. I thought rather than the Brewdog story itself, that was quite funny as well. And then, just typical, Bruce said with this one, he's buggered off. So talking to Geordieland, Bruce, you picked up this idea of Michael Hewitt with the world's largest Newcastle brown ale collection.
Looks fantastic, doesn't it? That really. There's some work gone into that, hasn't it?
So he's basically trying to collect every particular bottle variation label, isn't he, of every Newcastle brown, and he literally has got hundreds. So The links there in the YouTube. So again, it was in the Chronicle, wasn't it, up in Newcastle? I also picked this week that the Toast Company. I picked it up from the Opinions podcast, actually. You know, Toast, who make that beer out of recycled bread or they've just done a massive collab with, I think, 24 of the breweries, and there's a big box for, I think it's about 90 quid. I think you can buy a box. And actually, Guinness have actually, for the first time, probably in Guinness history, they've done a collab with Toast, and they've created, and they've created it's a stout, but instant the guys from Opinions are saying that obviously Guinness now, obviously they've taken out the hot, what it was 45, what was it? What was it called? UK, the lager they did here over here. Hop
House 13, yeah.
They've took off. They've said they're not going to bother with that in the UK, and they're going to focus back on stout. And so there's a suggestion. We mentioned Guinness Zero, and now there's a Guinness collab that they are trying to look back into stout. And obviously, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. I said to Nick yesterday, I've still not found a can of Guinness Zero anywhere.
No me.
It's a bit like
I've got some in my fridge.
Yeah, I know. Last night.
Yeah. It's all right, Bruce. Actually, I was saying to Stephen Ormont Royal last night because I was driving. That's why I didn't have much beer. And I said I would certainly consider that for non-alcoholic. Of all the non-alcoholic beers I've tried, the Guinness was good. Except when you look at the ingredients, they've obviously enhanced the flavour because it contains sweetener, and it also says other ingredients that you never see on a normal can of Guinness. A normal can of Guinness purely hops, barley, water, and whatever else in it. Whereas I say this one. So I think that's how they've made it, give it a bit more taste and a bit more flavour to it by taking the alcohol. I mean, there are people who turn around and say, oh, you can't taste alcohol, my drink's been spiked because people have been putting vodka in it. I didn't realise, but that to me is what you can taste. Yeah, alcohol doesn't have a taste as such, but when you take the alcohol out of beer, that's what changes the character of it. But so the Guinness was probably better than a lot of the other non-alcoholic beers that I've tried. So yeah, if you see it, I'll give it a try.
I've got to say, to the stout, this Sam Smith's chocolate stout is absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, it is delicious, isn't it? Yeah.
We say once again, nice when I go to London, I sometimes do that. The fact that you go into Sam Smith's pub and you pay maybe a couple of pounds cheaper than if you go into a Fuller's pub. I'll often have a bottle beer and thinking, well, normally you think it's quite dear, but if I'm paying £5 for a bottle in a Sam Smith's pub, I'm paying £5 for a flat pint of London Pride. I'll give the bottle a go.
Sorry.
So, right, Nick, we're on to your London trip then. So you went down the train. You went on the
talking about London Pride.
Went
on the train.
Yeah. Any beer on the train? Did they do beer on the LNER service?
No, we were on the seat frog trying to get the upgrade onto the first class. They actually have. I think it's brewed by. Bruce will tell us. Is it brewed by Black Sheep or is it brewed by World Top? Anyway, they have one called.
Like the.
Yeah, and it's. He'll tell us when he comes back.
Yeah,
but it's the name is like it's Rudgate. I think that's right.
Rudgate, right.
Rudgate make one. For specialist Bruce, what's Rudgate's LNER beer called?
I'll come to me in a minute. Oh God, Hop on Board.
Hop on Board. That's right.
Hop on board.
So if you get upgraded into first class, then you can have a beer. But we didn't manage it because the train was fairly busy.
Yes, I'm down there on the 11th of November, so I'm going to hopefully get a seat frog up there. Hopefully a seat frog to get some. Okay. Now I'm still here. I'm just going to pop on some mute briefly because I've got all these girls going to have to bang some pizza. I'm listening, but I will go on mute.
All right. That's fine, Bruce. No problem. So I think, Nick, we mentioned the Princess Louise a few times. And I think we discussed this a couple of weeks ago because when you just come back from London and we were talking about that picture, again, for those people on YouTube, the Princess Louise is Sam Smith's pub, which is in High Holborn. And you took it. I think you'd been there about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. You'd got upstairs to the upstairs.
Well, no, this was the other day. But when we were talking about London a few weeks back, and we were all saying that the Princess Louise is one that we're going to.
Yeah.
I then said I didn't realise that I never knew that it actually had an upstairs, which is a thing in a lot of Sam Smith's pubs. Again, he utilises upstairs because he either hasn't got folks living up there or whatever reason. When he restores a building, he does the whole lot. Yeah. So I said to Jackie, I said, right, so we go to Princess Louise, we'll definitely look for the upstairs. And once again, it was like a lovely, comfortable living room. Not quite as nice as the Crown, and maybe not quite as nice as the one in Leeds that we often go into. But certainly comfortable up there. And yeah, we got sat right in the window, give us the view of that is that's Holborn Road going into New Oxford Street. So, but that was actually the following day. Right. This would have been my last stop if I wanted to go into double figures. But what we actually did, we started at Trafalgar Square. Now, from Trafalgar Square, if you are in the centre of London, you can, opposite Charing Cross Station, you jump on a number 15 bus. Now, the number 15 bus was iconic in that was the last route to run the route master, the old jumping on the back, the old fashioned buses. But I think with the green issue now, they've even taken those out of circulation. They don't run them anymore.
Scandalous, that scandalous.
So we mentioned Princess Louise quite a lot, I think, in the last the London podcast. So we'll perhaps move on from this one. But I just put in the What Pub description, which is quite interesting, really. And we talked a little bit about what a fantastic Victorian example it is. And I think I did know that there'd been a refurbishment, but again, they mentioned that in 2007 the pub went through a comprehensive restoration. We saw the reinstatement of the multi-room layout and those glass dividing walls going back in. So although they look very old, actually they're probably all done in 2007, but it's still a fantastic pub. And that's definitely, I said we'd all pick that, wouldn't we? It's one of our choices, really. So this is your trip then. So this is from the
So jump on number 15. If you don't want to catch it from across Charing Road Station, you can actually walk up the Strand a little bit. A couple of pubs that Bruce had mentioned in his choices. You've got the Lyceum Theatre, once again, Sam Smith's pubs, or the Coal Hall, neither of which I've been. I've been in the Wellington. There's a Nicholson's pub just up there on the corner, which ain't too bad. So you can actually walk along the Strand. If you wanted to start your beer count on the Strand, then that's three pubs there ideal. So then jump on the number 15 and take the ride. And once again, the 15 route is the one that passes a lot of the iconic areas and buildings when you're running west to east through London. So you go up the Strand, pass by St. Paul's, wherever we've got Ludgate Hill, onto Cannon Street. Obviously, the Bastard Brewdog outpost that I've never been in there, but it looks quite interesting in that they've got, seems to have a massive great big games room with pool tables and air hockey tables and video games and stuff like that. And then we get off at Tower Hill. Now, when we get off at Tower Hill, we normally go in the Spoons, which is the Liberty Bounds there. Now, the last time I went out to London, not this time, the last time before, we actually went to go to Liberty Bounds and it was closed, not just because of COVID, but it was being refurbished. So I've always liked the Liberty Bounds because upstairs, where I would think would be a huge ingle nook fire, there's actually two tiny little drinking spaces, and there's just literally a single person seat and a chair, and a single person seat and a chair. So you're almost drinking in a little nook. So I know I'd like to try get myself in there, right? These quaint little drinking areas. But unfortunately, the upstairs was closed, and I think that was a cause of no staff. So it's been refurbished, so it's nice and tidy and smart in there. Obviously, you get a good mixture of people in there. You get a mixture of sort of people who work in that part of London. Also, you get your tourists who have been to Tower Bridge and the Tower of London as well. But as unfortunately, on that day, we couldn't go upstairs. But had a pint of Howling Wolf in there, which has been getting quite a few good ratings on various reviews that I've seen. Can't say that it was a good pint as far as I was concerned, but that's what we started off with. But the other reason why we stopped there is because it was supposed to be my day, but Jackie had insisted that we should go to a hotel bar that had a view. And so I found this particular place, which is the Citizen M Hotel. Once again, it's one of those places that is hipster and all that sort of stuff, and they do various different things. But they have got what they call their rooftop bar, which is 7 stories up. And for anybody watching us on YouTube, you'll see that's the view from the balcony. So you can see the Shard on the right-hand side. You've got the Tower of London in front of you, and then you can see the Tower Bridge just behind. If you look around the corner to the right-hand side, you see the Gherkin, because the actual outdoor balcony wraps itself around the building.
And is that HMS Belfast on the river there? We can see in that picture as well.
That's the end of Belfast as well. Yeah. So in terms of view, it's a cracking view. Yeah. The guys behind the bar, they unfortunately didn't have any draft on. They were complaining that they weren't getting supplies, even though the draft what they have is Camden, so it's only literally about 3 or 4 miles away. But they're saying they were having difficulty with supply and also with wagon drivers. If they did get any beer into the hotel, it was designated to the downstairs bar, which they couldn't stand because they said, obviously, we get far more people coming up here for the view than sitting downstairs in the lobby drinking down there. So all they had on was a kind of Beavertown neck oil, which once again, crafty beer. It was all right, £5.25, probably worth £5.25 for the view. The mistake I made, I got a glass of Pimm's, and the glass of Pimm's was 12 quid. So the total price for the bill was just short of 20 quid. Now, Pimm's in anybody's, it ain't even a spirit strength, is it? It's not even a 40%. So where they found the 12 quid from, I don't know. They put a couple of slices of, well, they put a couple of dried slices of apple in it, and he got a couple of basil leaves, I think, and crushed them in his hand. And I thought, well, that's not very hygienic with the COVID going on, but there we are. I wasn't drinking it. But I think that justified, I would think you normally pay what, between 4 or 5 quid for a Pimm's. So that must have justified putting another 6 or 7 quid on there. So yeah, one drink, and that was enough because obviously we had a schedule to sit to. So back downstairs, 10 minutes walk through Tower Hill Gardens to the DLR Gateway, which is the Docklands Light Railway. Jump on your Docklands Light Railway there. 10 minutes journey. You have to change stations where, I'll just get this right, you change at West Ferry. Well, there's 2 or 3 stations, but if you want to go into Canary Wharf, you do have to change your train, but you literally jump off one and then wait for the next one to come along. And so into Canary Wharf, another 10 minutes ride, get off at Canary Wharf station itself, and then wander back up to India Dock, I think it's called, and that's where the Spoons is. And this is what Tim Martin is good at, taking these old architecturally unique buildings and putting new life into them. So yeah, it was an old customs building, very quiet because we were here on a Monday afternoon. So nice vibe actually down in the Docklands there. There weren't many people in suits knocking around because I think we just got in just before them. So as you can see from the photographs, those on YouTube again, it was pretty empty, but it was a good base to have something to eat at a decent price. Started off with a pint of, what did I have in there? I had a pint of Sambrook's Wandle. Sambrook's being a London-based brewery originally. I think they do still brew in London, but they've moved most of the brewing out to Croydon now. But I think they were established in 2013. Craft brewing, but it wasn't too arty-farty, crafty in taste. It was not a bad pint, especially at £2.49 because I managed to get my 50p camera voucher in there. And then I had one of the Spoons curries that I think have improved as well. And I had my big bottle of Elvis juice, which is Brewdog, but it's the best value drink if you're having a meal in Spoons. Get yourself a bottle of Elvis juice because it's a 660 millilitre bottle. I think they normally charge $3.99 for it. So you're getting more than a pint. And when you get your curry, it basically works out you get your curry for about 3 or 4 quid. So that's the Ledger Building, Canary Wharf. From there, another 10-minute walk. I think Bruce is talking, but he's muted himself.
I just really because I heard a pizza clanging.
I was going to say, alternatively, you could support an independent brewery and not somebody who offers to sell buy a can of beer and sell you a fake gold can, couldn't he?
well, I did, Bruce. I say I had the Wandle, but I didn't want another pint of that. And yes.
My choice this week in Wetherspoons, actually, with my meal, was a pint of Conway Gold, which was very nice on cask. Which was
tried that one. That was
Although
nice.
I also had to drink Roosters in Wales because that was on the beer festival bit as well. So right, Nick. So that's the first 2 ticked off, and then I know you mentioned.
Whoa, you're going wrong way here, man. Bloody hell! Wait, you've jumped there. What? I'm here. I'm in the helicopter. Get back.
Which one comes next?
So from Canary Wharf, we walk 10 minutes west along Narrow Lane, which is quite a nice little name, to the Grapes. So let's find Gandalf's Grapes.
Oh, you see, you sent me all these. It's just like beer brews. Right.
No, it wasn't
so
me.
Here we go. Here we've got
Right.
Gandalf. You shall not pass.
Gandalf's Grapes. Now, once again, on a
Tiny
Monday.
balcony, isn't it? I've seen it. It's really tiny balcony, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I sent Mike some pictures. I don't know if he's got those. But so I think it opens at 4 o'clock. But once again, my scheduling deliberate to get us there at 4 o'clock. Reason being, on a Monday night, it's also quiz night. And they often say Sir Ian McCallan, who is the leaseholder to the building, to the pub, he often goes in on quiz night on a Monday night because it's fairly quiet. So plus I thought, let's get ourselves there just as they open. I wasn't planning to stay for the quiz because my master plan was to get back onto the river just as it was turning dark to then see the city lighting up. So first pint in there was a pint of Bonkers Conkers, which is a Green King beer. And as you stand at the bar, you can see Gandalf's staff proudly mounted behind the bar. And yeah, because it was still early doors, whilst there were quite a few people sat indoors, they'd already secured their seats for the quiz, walked out through to the back, and there's a little two-tier balcony. So we managed to have the balcony to ourselves. And great view either way, up and down the river. So once again, people on YouTube, that's me enjoying my pint of, that was either the Bonkers Conkers, and we had to stop for 2 in there. So lo and behold, he had Taylor's Landlord on the bar. Ian Serenely, obviously, he's from Lancashire, but I still think he likes a lot of his northern beers. So I think you will often find at least one, if not a couple of northern beers on in there. Sadly, we didn't see him, but as I say, we were on the schedule, so I had a couple of beers, and the pub started to get a bit full with people coming for the quiz. So we then headed back down narrow lane, but you can actually walk then along the actual river itself, along the foreshore of the North Bank, down to the Canary Wharf ferry pier, which, as I say, it's the Clipper. They are now branded Uber Clippers, and jump on there, and it's a fast ferry ride, 18 minutes up to Blackfriars Pier.
So I'm hoping you're going to go to Blackfriars pub next time.
I am, yeah. So Blackfriars pub is 2 minutes walk from Blackfriars Pier, heading north, and this is a Nicholson's pub. And once again, this was saved, I think Sir John Betjeman was involved in managing to prepare this spot. It is a riot of Art Nouveau, created in, I think, Victorian times. And the reason it has a friars theme is because it was built on the site of an old friary. So on the outside, you've got full-size statues of jolly-looking friars enticing you to come into the pub. On the inside, you've got mosaics, you've got friezes, you've got sculptures, you've got friars being non-religious in certain respects around the top of the pub and over the bar, really enjoying themselves with beer, wine, food, and God knows know what. Tiled interiors, once again, a unique, cracking interior. And these are the sort of pubs that I like to seek out. I've walked past it many times. I might it from the outside, but never really had the opportunity all the time to go in. But I say, as this was my day and this was my schedule, managed to make sure that I had a good half an hour to 40 minutes in there, and I had to sample the London Pride. Unfortunately, because Nicholson's were being very generous, I got a pint of London Pride, I got an orange juice, and I used my Nicholson's app, and I think my round cost me £3.15. Still not quite sure how it was so cheap, but I think the guy behind the bar, he was obviously a student, quite naive, nice enough bloke. I don't think they stuck it very long, and I'm not sure that he processed my voucher properly or did what he needed to do. But anyway, that was probably my cheapest round in London.
So again, this is, as Nick said, this is one of those. It's one of those flat iron pubs. We mentioned we kind of on a corner, so it's a quite a funny shape, a bit like it's the Bath Hotel in Sheffield we talked about, and a couple of ones in Edinburgh like this.
Fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, and it says there that it's Art Nouveau Grade 2 masterpiece of a building. The Black Friar was built in 1875 on the site of the Dominican Friary, designed by architect H. Fuller Clark and artist Henry Poole, who were both freethinking of the arts and craftsmen that was mentioned there as well. And again, that just got me thinking actually in Wet Wales last week with Nicholson's. We talk about Nicholson's quite a lot, mainly because, as Nick said there, they do take or they are kind of very into their heritage pubs, aren't they? They take old buildings and all old historical pubs and do look after them. So I thought I'd do a bit of digging into Nicholson's, and actually I actually went down the wrong again, been a very, very wet day, Wales. I went down the wrong alley the first thing, because I found this guy called William Nicholson, and Nicholsons say on their website that William Nicholson was their founder, but there actually are two William Nicholsons, and the first William Nicholson I came across actually opened a brewery in Maidenhead, Nicholson's Brewery. And again, I've got for those on YouTube, there's a old, very old pump clip bottle label there for Nicholson's Brown Ale, and they mainly were based in the southeast, and they had 150 type pubs. bought out by Courage in 1958. And there is now the Nicholsons shopping centre in Maidenhead sits where the brewery used to be. And in fact, the deep well, 400 foot deep well is still there. So I think I kind of got a bit lost there. I couldn't find out what the link then was from Nicholson's Brewery into Nicholson's, the kind of modern pub chain. So thankfully, Mr. Roger Protz came to my help. And Roger Protz, obviously, aficionado of beer, had actually written an article. I think it was it might have been for beer actually, but the strapline he was how cricket Victorian gin palaces came to drive Nicholson's beer festivals. So he then wrote a really good article, and I put the link in there. And I'd say both of you have a look. It's really interesting read actually about Nicholson's, and actually some really interesting history. Surprising, well, not surprisingly. So William Nicholson was another William Nicholson. And he had a brother called James, and they set up a gin distillery in London, in Clerkenwell and Bow, and they made lamplighter gin. And there is still, again, some evidence of that around on the District Line underground in Bromley and West Ham stations. Distilling had to end there in the Second World War because they got bombed out. And apparently the buildings now are used for film and TV studios, but you can still see part of the old kind of maltings that we use there as well. And William Nicholson was the chairman of J&W Nicholson Gin Distillery, and he got into gin palaces because at the end of the 18th century, 900, this is kind of what happened, and this is where some of those pubs like the Princess Louise we've mentioned kind of came into fashion at the kind of turn of the 1900s. And there's also a link to cricket in that William Nicholson, as well as being gin distiller and CEO of the company, was also quite a good cricketer and played for Middlesex and was a member of the MCC and was quite a big guy. So by all accounts, the MCC with their egg and bacon ties and blazers, Roger Protz was suggesting that there is some discussion that actually that was the colours of the Nicholson's gin distillery, and that's why they kind of shared that. And apparently Nicholson's also put quite a lot of money into the building of the Lord's Ground in 1864 as well. So again, I thought it was a really interesting link there between cricket and drinking. So Nicholson's became pub owners because, as I mentioned, they started to buy these gin palaces. But again, at the same time, then there was a bit of an issue about, obviously, gin started to get a bit of a bad name. So they also then began to look at things like beer as well. And they now have around about 77 pubs across the United Kingdom, mainly in England and Scotland. And again, there are some fantastic pubs in their list, really. Some really, great old-fashioned pubs, and quite a few that we've mentioned as well. So just a little kind of side bit there, really. And again, Roger Protz says
the brand it's not Nichols now. It's Mitchell and Butler, isn't it?
Yeah, we'll come back to that. Yeah, but they retain the Nicholson's kind of brand or whatever.
It's just one of their brands, yeah.
And Protz
is it Mitchell and Butler, or is it the other guys?
No, M&B, and actually Protz actually mentions the Blackfriars particularly, and says that it's a great example of what Nicholson's do to a pub is the Blackfriar, and as Nick explained there, fantastic building. And he said, without Nicholson's, it probably would may not be there. So yeah, as you said, Nick, they are Mitchell and Butlers, and Mitchell and Butlers now have run 1,784 pubs and bars. We've mentioned before, I think it's quite a ubiquitous list, isn't it? Sizzlers and Vintage and Harvester and Toby Carvery's, Nicholson's, O'Neill's, All Bar Ones, Miller Carter's. It's quite a long list, really.
But they support real ale, which is good. And they often give discounts as well. I know certainly Vintage Inns, if you got your camera card, they do give a discount, which brings the price of a pint in their restaurant down to acceptable level, to be honest with you. So yeah, I don't mind them for that respect. And
I think if you look at that list, I suppose what they are doing is their demographics is pretty broad, isn't it? They are like you say, keeping beer available to quite a large part of the population. So if you want to go to a posh All Bar One, they always have at least one decent ale in an All Bar One. When I go to a steakhouse like Miller and Carter, they always have at least 2 real ales on. So yeah, it's all good to them, really. So we've done that one. So am I now going to Viaduct Tavern?
Yeah, we've had a ride on the boat up. Yeah, so we're going up Newbridge Street, up Farringdon, and when you actually get under the viaduct, those who follow us will remember my my unique purchase. I actually managed to buy one of the old pub signs from the Viaduct Tavern, which is a Fuller's pub, once again, iconic. Once again, this pub is looked upon as the best remaining example of a London gin palace, certainly inside, unaltered. It faces the Old Bailey, built on the site of an old prison or old jail. Certain people reckon that if you go in the cellars, there are still parts of the cells down there, although that is disputed to a certain extent. They reckon it's one of London's most haunted pubs as well. This was the pub that I wanted to go in, because obviously owning one of the pub signs as well, with it being a Fuller's pub, walked past it a couple of times. Once again, it's on a curved corner, so quite a unique shape to the pub. Sadly, when I went in there, by now it was about 9 o'clock on Monday night, me and the other half were the only people in there. And I think the two young lads behind the bar were ready to lock up and go home. So I had a quick chat with them and sort of said, look, are we keeping you waiting? Is it normally this quiet? And they said, well, back end of a night it can be, but we've not known it as quiet as this. In there, I had something a little bit different. I had a pint of Anne's Back and Hobday Summer Pale, and it was exceedingly light, a very, very light straw-coloured beer. When I'd mentioned Sam Brooks earlier on, I got a little bit mixed up, actually. In fact, Ansbach and Hobday were originally started craft brewing in Bermondsey in 2013, but their main brewery is in Croydon now. But as I say, sadly, the Viaduct Tavern was lacking in any atmosphere. I'd like to go back there when it's a bit fuller, when there's a little bit more going on. But I really did feel that the guys wanted us to drink up and then they could get home early, which I allowed them to do so. So from there, we then walked across the viaduct. And once again, if nobody's ever seen Holborn Viaduct, it's worth having a look at. There's actually statues on the bridge itself, and the bridge is always kept in tip-top condition, nicely painted. It's got a wrought iron top and underneath it. So from both directions, it's quite a unique piece of architecture. So walk over the viaduct, you're heading west again, and you're heading to Hatton Garden. And obviously Hatton Garden is infamous or famous for its jewellery and the Hatton Garden heist, when the guys went into the basement and hacked their way through into a safety deposit box. And in a similar way, the pub that I was looking for is hidden away. You wouldn't really know it was there if you didn't walk past it. You get to it almost like some of the pubs that we know in Leeds, where you have to go down these hidden passages. And in fact, on the Hatton Garden side, on the street, you have to look out for, there is a sign mounted on a lamppost, and then above the little alleyway, there's the classic Fuller's with the Griffin above. I don't know if you've got an image of that one, Mike, anywhere. There we are.
Yeah.
So there I am looking at, but obviously the pub isn't actually on the street itself. It's down the little Ginnell way.
Yeah.
Walk down the passageway. Those on YouTube will see the sort of passage I'm talking about on the right-hand side there. If you weren't familiar or you weren't comfortable, you think, where the hell am I walking down here? It's a dark passage to nowhere. But anyway, you come out into this little courtyard. Now, Yieldy Mitre, once again, is supposedly one of the oldest pubs in London. It dates back to 1546, not this actual pub, but there have always been pubs on the site. And this is also famous for, in fact, Queen Elizabeth I used to like to meet one of her local friends and dance the maypole around an old cherry tree that used to be in the courtyard there. Unfortunately, the cherry tree has long since gone. They do reckon that part of the bar or part of the infrastructure is there's a beam from the cherry tree. But yeah, once again, it's one of those unique little pubs that you've got to search out, because out of all the pubs I've been in, this was definitely my favourite. This is one I'll go back to. First things first, walked in, what beers were on the bar? Once again, those people watching YouTube, what an array of beers. Considering this is a Fuller's pub, pride of place in the centre of the hand punts is London Pride. But what else did they have on? They had Thornbridge Jaipur, one of our favourites. Unfortunately, I'd already 8 pints by then, so I thought, well, I don't know how many more pints I've got in me, but I won't have the Jaipur. They've got Black Sheep on there. One for you, Michael. They've got Titanic's Plum Porter on there. And lo and behold, those that listen to us frequently now know what's in my top 3 beers. My favourite Great Newsom, that's Sleck Dust on. So I had to have a pint of Yorkshire East, Yorkshire Wolds, Sleck Dust in Yieldy Mitre. Once again, I think it's a pub that has 3 rooms. One of the rooms you can only get to from a door on the outside. We found ourselves in what was called Yieldy Closet, which is a little square room, wooden panelled, simple leaded glass windows behind. And it also holds the attribute that it's one of the few pubs still in London that if you have to go to the gents' toilet, you've got to go outside. Now, obviously, we know a few of those pubs in Leeds and York, but they reckon in London, this is quite an anomaly, quite unusual, that in order to go for a pee, you have to go outside into the little courtyarded area. But yeah, definitely recommend it. First time I've been in there, definitely going back there. But overall, you know, the crawl that I did using the public transport there, I think this took me to number 9 beers. I'd had enough. I was quite happy. If you wanted to finish the night off, then from here, you carry on walking up Holborn and you'll end up with our 2 or 3 favourite Sam Smith's pubs. You've got the City of York, you've got the Princess Louise, and then you've got, which one is it you're going, Mike? Is the Crown? Yeah, I always want to call that the Mitre for some reason, but the Crown. So yeah, you've got public transport or you've got walking. You're never more than a 10-15 minute walk or journey between all the pubs that that I've run through. And I reckon you could do it in a day. You know, it was nice to come back on the Clipper when, as I say, it was just getting dark, to see the city lighting up, because we normally do the river during the day. So it was nice to see that. But I reckon if you went down by train, you got to your first destination at 12 o'clock, you could do the tour that I've just done in a day, manage to get back on the train. I've one probably last night camp in the parcel yard up at the King's Cross station, which I did the following day, and then back home on the last train of the day.
Good trek around that, wasn't it?
Yeah. Just to fix the Watts pub, just a description of the Almighty. Identified cameras having a nationally important historic interior. It's hidden in the alley, as Nick said, between Hatton Garden and Ely Place. Extensive wood paneling, 2 bars and a small function upstairs. Been a pub here since 1546. Current building is from 18th century. Fullest took over in 2009. But as Nick said, a bit like that Harp actually, which isn't far away, isn't it? They do seem to encourage you to drink beer as well. So just look at there, Nick. So we've got Bakewell, we've got Stoke-on-Trent, we've got East Yorkshire, we've got Massam. Where was Fiery Fox from?
Not sure. It's not an Elgoods, is it? I can't. Once again, I'm on my iPad. I can't quite see the pump clip. But to walk into that at the end of the night and think, my God, I could have spent all night in here, actually. In fact, it's a good job I didn't start there, because I probably would have just sat in there for 3 or 4 hours, you know, doing the full row pumps. But no, a cracking place to end up in. You know, it just had that you know, that turn of the century, even medieval feel to the place. Once again, quite a nice mixture of people. And in fact, it was surprising, because by then it was about 9, 9:30, and most people were still choosing to actually sit outside. And obviously, I'm not talking, this wasn't summer, this was when, about 4 or 5 weeks ago, wasn't it? But yeah, whether it was a COVID thing or what, I don't know. But, you know, most people were sat outside. And so this is why we ended up having Closet to ourselves.
Barry Fox is a Welsh cider.
All right, okay.
Quint Drag, yeah. So it looks like there you go.
Probably a good job I didn't have a pint of that then, but then obviously they've got draft cider as well. But no, that's the nice thing with Fuller's pubs, you know, you can often find, it's nice to walk into a Fuller's pub and see the full range of Fuller's beers there. But then in some of the other ones, you know, they seem to, be happy with allowing other brewers to come in.
So I think you've answered the question that the Almighty sounds like the one that you would be picking the choice and the one you'd probably want to go back to.
Once again, all the pubs that I went in, I was quite happy with them. Yeah. There wouldn't be a pub that I'd turn around and say I probably wouldn't bother, other than the Viaduct Tavern. But I'm sure we just got it on a bad night. It was Monday night. There was nothing much doing in the city. And I say, I'm sure if I go back there, which I definitely will do, I'm sure that it will improve itself. But as I say, a bit like when me and Bruce went to Wakefield and started, I was thinking about Wakefield again, Bruce, you know, as a destination you remember to think about. All those pubs that we went in Wakefield, I think that was a cracking trip. Once again, I think we had 9 pints in the end, but it was enough, you know, it was a nice steady session really. And I say, this is what the London one was, you know. I would certainly recommend the route that I've taken. You can do it in a day.
Is that?
Yeah.
So
just remind me again, Michael, what's the name of the pub behind Thornton and Mason?
No, that's me. The Red Lion.
Red Lion.
The little Red Lion. The tiny Red Lion. The etched glass Red Lion. The red line that you'd only probably get about
What
30
street
people in
is it
there.
on? What street is it on?
Duke York Street.
Right.
You won't forget that, will you?
So your three back in episode 15, and we chose our 3 London pubs. Your 3 pubs at that time were the Red Line, just explained in Duke York Street, the Lamb in Lamb Conduit Street, and the Princess Louise in High Holborn. So are you now saying that the old Mitre might?
I'd probably drop the Lamb for the Mitre.
Right.
Put Mitre in instead of the Lamb. I mean, the Lamb is nice because it's Young's pub, and I say they had the snob screens, and it's handy walking down from King's Cross again. It's a nice stop off, 15 minutes, 20 minutes from the station before you get to your destination. But out of the range of beers and the atmosphere, and the fact that it seems to be so secret, down those little passageways, definitely go the Mitre.
Yeah. So not this limit to smell like White Locks we mentioned before in Leeds with that another
exactly those passageways. You would never know. You just would never know as a tourist wandering around that street. You would never know there's a pub there.
Yeah, interesting.
And even the other end, in fact, on Ely Place, it's even less well marked. So there are corridors both sides. But as I say, it's not even marked up on Ely Place. So if you go down Ely Place, all you see is that blank passageway.
Yeah. Fantastic. That's been really interesting. And say a couple of some new pubs there. Again, I don't think I've been to any of those pubs you mentioned in the episode today. So definitely one for me. I'm in London myself sometime this month. So I might certainly pick a couple of those. I've got a meeting for a couple of hours and I've got a couple of hours spare. So the All Mitre sounds like one that's probably on my way back towards Houston. I can probably tick in. So that sounds fantastic.
Well, I say potential for a day trip there, guys. Me and Bruce come down the East Coast. You come down the West Coast.
Oh yes.
Get there for lunchtime, and I say I reckon we could do that same. You can do that trail in 6 hours.
Yeah.
So
good stuff. So as I said, we've got another podcast to catch up with in the next week or so. So as Nick and Bruce have mentioned, they have a little trip to the Yorkshire Rhubarb Triangle, which is kind of Wakefield and Castleford, and I think you also managed to get one in Leeds on the way back as well. So I think that will be the focus of our next podcast. And then I've got my Macclesfield session to talk about as well, really. And I say, we're hoping that potentially at the end of November, we are going to do a live one with Sheffield, feeling like it's going to be probably the venue of our choice. We've talked about Sheffield quite a bit. We've done we have actually, you did a Sheffield, didn't you, Nick?
Yeah, me and Bruce did one.
Back in whenever it was. I think that was one last place.
Up to Chesterfield as well. It's only 15.
Chesterfield as well.
2 or 3 cracking pubs in Chesterfield.
But we're not going to Rotherham, are we? Because I think you decided that was a little bit of a trip too far on your last adventure down there as well.
Well, the only pub we had on our list was the Old Mill pub just outside the station. It was closed.
So good stuff. So happy Halloween, everybody. I hope that's an interesting addition to our podcast. We will probably get another episode out within the next week or so. So have a great week, everybody. Have a great November, or is it Movember as it normally is? Rugby started, but it's on Amazon this year. So Nick's happy because he's now got Amazon on his telly. So he's got his next few weekends watching rugby with a couple of beers. So cheers, everybody.
Bye.
I normally clink my bottles, but he ain't got any.
No worries. Right, see everybody.
See ya.